Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. Sorry, I was getting all kinds of texts at the same time that they came up. First to Russ, and then right on to the show. What's going on, Russ?
All right. So, what were you doing 40 years ago today? It's the day that John Lennon was shot. And we, when you first think about it, we're all sports junkies. And I was watching Monday Night Football and what was it, like New England, Miami. And Howard Cosell broke in and basically told the world the news. I guess he had gotten from the ABC news agency. And since it's all on ABC, in those days, I mean, everybody watched Monday Night Football. Now, you're lucky if you get 5% of the country watching it, but it was a big deal.
Well, I was just going to say that. I mean, that was appointment television back in the day when Monday Night Football, nobody missed it. And it's interesting, the psychology of Cosell. I mean, because what was that noise?
Sorry, that was my keyboard. I apologize.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
My keyboard.
It was the ghost again.
That sounds horrible. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no. Cosell was extremely pissed off back in '72 when Jim McKay got to broadcast coverage of the Israeli athletes being kidnapped and eventually killed by the Palestinians in Munich. He wanted, because he always thought himself being when he did broadcast for baseball, he would always interrupt the guy who was the play-by-play guy. He always wanted to be a news guy. He thought he was, his whatever didn't stink. So if you listen to Russ tweeted me, or somebody in our group chat tweeted the actual video. Peter. Frank Gifford is talking and he just interjects. Now, I don't blame him because that was a massive, massive story, but he always, I think Rune Ardledge fed him the info and he went right on the air with it. But I was watching the game at the time. I was 13 years old, so I remember watching it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm friends with Howard's grandson, Colin, and he's actually the ballpark voice of the Mets for the last few years. So
cool.
Yeah, so it was an amazing thing, and obviously Lennon was a big deal. The fact that I'm the age that I'm at, born in '63, I was born in that Beatles era. Like my dad printed out posters for them. I watched Yellow Submarine as a little kid, so they were ingrained. So it was a massive deal.
It was my definitely one of my musical idols at the time too. And when it happened, I remember it very well because I was delivering. I found out actually delivering newspapers because I was a newspaper delivery guy.
The next morning,
I had a newspaper route, but it was no, actually I was delivering the Courier Post, which is an evening paper. When the first report came out that I heard, because I didn't see that it was when I first saw the first thing I saw, and that really hit me hard. I couldn't believe that had happened, and it's crazy. It's crazy. And then 33 years ago today, by the way, we have hockey stuff, so I'll get to that in a second. I'll talk to you.
Okay.
What happened 33 years ago today? All right, here we go. Hello, Hockey World. It's Tuesday, December 8th, the date after the date they're living after me. And you're watching the HockeyBuzzcast. I'm sorry, I totally screwed this up. Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. It's Tuesday, December 8th, 2020.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm still Russ Cohen.
And I'm Eklund. You're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday, and it's time to fill you in the comings, goings in the afternoon hockey world. And 33 years ago today.
December 8th, 1987.
Right. 33 years ago today, I was trying to make some money. I was in college. I was a freshman in college. I was trying to make some money, so I had taken on a job of teaching kids how to play piano. I was a piano teacher.
Oh, I thought it was a male prostitute. Okay, it's better.
That was later.
That was later.
This was I was a freshman in college, so I was doing I was trying my best to get some money, and I was teaching kids, and I remember teaching this kid try to play the Final Countdown by
Oh wow, that's pretty cool. Yeah, Zero.
So when I taught piano to kids, I didn't want to teach just the Three Blind Mice. I tried to teach them the da 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 da, the line.
Final Countdown.
Right, the synth line from Final Countdown. I was trying to teach them that. Right, exactly.
Yeah, and, Eck was the real American gigolo.
Yep. And I was totally exhausted, and I had taught like 3 kids how to play piano, and it was 8:00 at night, and I was dry, and I had tickets to go to the Flyers game, which started at 7, And I was like, God, my friend was meeting me there, and there was no way of not going because there was no way of telling him I wasn't going to be there. My friend Dan, who we're going to have on Thursday, was actually the one I was meeting. And so I'm like, I got to go. I got in the car. I was really tired. It was a meaningless game. I'm driving over. And that night, Ron Hextall scored the first goal as a golie in the NFL.
There you go.
And so had I not gone, I wouldn't have I would have missed that like incredibly like historic moment.
But that was the first one that was actually shot.
Right. That's the whole thing. That's where goalies will start to have umbrage with you. If you interview goalies from the past, they just didn't try because it felt like in those days, just like you didn't shoot high in the old days when guys didn't wear masks, goalies didn't try and score goals. Because
Billy Smith got credit for a goal. They were playing Colorado, and I think Rob Ramage was at the half boards and passed it back to what he thought was the point guy and missed him and shot it into his own net. And the last guy who had touched it was Billy Smith.
Yeah, which is that's sure that counts as credit for goal. But I mean, Hextall was probably the first goalie who was going to have a real legitimate shot at it because he was the first goalie who could handle the puck.
But I don't think that was the first time he shot on goal. He shot on goal.
No, he tried a couple times. He tried before to do it. But he missed it, and this was it. It was a game against the Boston Bruins, and oddly enough, the strange thing about that game was there was another thing that happened in that game that was like people kind of forget about, but it was the same game, and it was earlier in the game, and I did not see it because I was in the car on the way over when it happened. But that was the game where Brad Marsh got like hit up against the boards right by the bench, and like was really like was not wearing a helmet, was like laid out, and was like bleeding on the ice. Really, really scary moment. Same exact game. And it was like hitting that was the stanchion or whatever they call them that stand up.
A stanchion.
Yes, the stanchion. Yeah. And that was the beginning of those becoming padded. That
right.
They were not padded before that hit. Then they became padded, and that all happened in the same game. And Hextall did score one goal in a playoff game too.
Wasn't there like another one like Stefan Richer got hit or somebody in Montreal got hit up against the corner of the glass.
Yeah.
They finally padded it.
Yeah, exactly. So but that was the first time I had seen it, and the first time it had really been brought up for debate that it was, this is something I had to do. And at the time Brad Marsh was one of the last guys to not wear a helmet. So you got that going on too. It was a big thing for helmets. Because it would have helped him a ton, obviously.
Although McTavish was the last one.
He was the very last one, but this was like if there was ever an argument, for using helmets, and this was it because it really looked like it was really awful. And from what I didn't see it. Like I said, I arrived after it happened, and here's the odd thing about that. Part of me going to that game, I think, was a result of that because I turned on the game. And that happened in the first period. In the game, I figured to be like later than it was, and there was a long stretch going on. There was a long break in the first period while they cleaned up Marsh and got the ice cleaned and all that stuff, which delayed the game a little bit longer. So when I turned it on at 8:00, it was still in the first period, which is normally what would happen.
Well, I'm pretty sure that everybody remembers in Buffalo the infamous Clint Malarchuk. When he got his neck cut by it was against St. Louis.
Yeah.
They had to obviously, he was saved by the Sabres trainer who came out and held his carotid and kept him from bleeding out. But there was so much blood on the ice, they had to bring out the Zamboni to flood the ice and clear it. It was that much.
But why cancel the game, right?
So to keep the parallel contests going, do you know who the first player to retrieve the puck that Hextall scored into that goal to bring it back to Hextall? And it should be pretty obvious because if you watch the Hextall goal,
I saw one video of
it where it's going over top of the players, head, and one of the Flyer player who's in the front, like who's before everybody else. If he had touched the puck, would have been offsides. It's like
Peter Zezel.
Tim Kerr.
Peter Zezel.
Nope, that would be Pelle Eklund. Pelle Eklund's the guy who received the. So when you see the Hextall thing, you'll often see that Eklund's the one with his arms up in the air chasing down the puck. But
at least he was good for something.
Yeah, he was great. He was a great player.
He was a good player. I don't know if he was a great player. He was a great player.
He had some injuries, but he was a great player.
He was a good player.
Well, put it this way: he'd be in the Hall of Fame if Tim Kerr hadn't been injured so often. Because
oh my goodness,
he would be.
Let's get to the news, please.
He would be. There's no two ways about it.
Why don't I just say Ron Duguay should be a Hall of Famer too? Like, come on,
no, come on.
Well, Vidal Sassoon probably thinks he should be.
You guys missed the boat on that one. Stand up for me in the chat room, guys, or stand up for me in the.
Nobody's standing up on that.
No, I'm serious.
I'm surprised.
If you look at Eklund's stats with Kerr, and those two were playing together, it was crazy. But Kerr would play like 30 games. He would just like,
So anyway,
there you have it.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. All right, so we talked about.
Actually, no, I'm going to just say, they have Pelle Eklund on Hockey Reference. They have him sort of equal to Rajan Uhl, Nicholas Sundstrom, Mike Fisher, Bobby Nystrom. That's the kind of player he was. He's not a Hall of Famer.
No, but to watch him play, he was better than those guys.
He's not a Hall of Famer in the Eklund family.
I know.
Come on.
No, he was better.
The Flyers didn't even give him a Hall of Fame. I don't even know if he's in the Flyers Hall of Fame.
I think he is. I believe. I think. I'm not
is
sure.
he? I don't know.
No, I'm saying he didn't have a Hall of Fame career. What I've said, again, look at his stats with Tim Kerr in the lineup.
Jesus Christ,
it's crazy. Anyway,
yeah, it's crazy. All right.
I mean, you're talking about like an Adam Oates, like Hall and Oates type situation. When those two were playing together, their numbers were ridiculous.
Oh yeah, he is in the Flyers Hall of Fame. Oh wait, no, it says Poulin. Doesn't say him. Hold on.
I don't think he is.
No, I don't think he is either.
Yeah, but no, he was ridiculously talented.
Yeah, actually, he's under consideration.
Yeah, he should be. But just ridiculously talented player.
So in other words, when they run out of players, then they'll put him in.
Anyway,
let's talk about the news. Let's talk about.
No, hold on.
Come on, what is going on here today?
Pelle Eklund or Simone Gagne? Who are you putting in?
Simone Gagne.
Not a chance. No, it's not even close.
Oh my God.
Wow. It's not even close. You guys are wrong.
Now I'm moving on.
You're just flat wrong. You guys don't remember Pelle Eklund then.
I remember him.
You don't remember the way. No, you don't remember the. No, you don't remember. Anyway, moving on.
Please.
Moving on. Here we go. The NHL. So yesterday we talked about it, and I had been saying for a couple of days that I'd heard that basically the whole concept of what they were going to do monetarily was figured out, and that was finally reported yesterday by others as well. And they did because they had to. It was one of these obvious things that they had to do, and it is the owners basically said, okay, we're just going to leave this as it is. Although we don't, there are some other aspects to that too that haven't yet been released. They're not changing the CBA, but there are some amendments being made for this particular year.
Yeah, I mean,
we're not, and they're not going in they're not just going in blind and playing. That would never get past the Board of Governors, not in a million years. Because there's a few, and there are still some people that are concerned. I talked to one person today who still doesn't know that it'll get past the Board of Governors. I think that it will. I think he's kind of an outlier on this thing from basically talking to other people that on a team that doesn't want to play.
Well, I can't see Gary Bettman putting a proposal in front of the Board of Governors that has an even infinitesimal chance of not passing. So, I mean, if it's something like, and I'm not going into politics here, but it's something like, an executive order that he does that changes things and, something that, and puts to the owners something that they will find palatable, I would assume that that's what's going to happen. But I mean, I find it a little strange that for 2 weeks we've been hearing, well, more deferred, more escrow, and then all of a sudden it's just wiped away like by the hand of God. And so they have to be finding this money elsewhere or some sort of saving elsewhere to make.
Well, I just think they finally realized what I said yesterday. Like, hey, if we keep arguing, we're just whittling down this season. That's the way it is.
Yeah, I think that the escrow will be increased. I do. I don't know how it's not going to be decreased to 50% or anything crazy that some of the things that are out there.
Well, here's the interesting thing that Elliot Friedman just reported about an hour ago. The players made a counter proposal to the owners, asking them to increase the salary cap by a small amount. I think it was $500,000 next year, $1 million the following year for deferred salary. No change in escrow, but for deferred salary. And the owner said no. So that just tells you they don't want to increase anything right now. They're so hard up that they don't want to increase even $500,000 in salary cap.
Yeah, that's rough. I mean, that is rough. I don't know exactly how that'll all play out, but I do know that they have figured it out. When we're hearing, you may hear the counter offers, but it's been figured out, and that and there are whether or not.
So you're saying by Sunday night they're going to vote yes, and by Monday we're going to know. That to me is figured out. If not, then I don't know if it's figured out yet.
Yeah, that I think it could be sooner than that. Like I don't know exactly when, but I was told within the day or two now. We'll hear that we'll have the actual plan. We'll have the whole thing together. We'll see. We'll know when the season starts. We're already basically being leaked that the season's starting like around January 13th. Everybody's seen that.
Yeah, and the only things that have to be worked out are I think it was COVID protocol, the realignment of the divisions, which are pretty. I mean, I don't know the American divisions. It's going to be 3 divisions of 8 teams based on geography. What I think is interesting, and I wrote about it today, is the Canadian division is only 7 teams. So if it's a 56 game schedule, it's not going to be an equal split between the like if Toronto plays the 6 other teams. It's not equally split, the 56 divided by 6. They'd have to play 10 games against 2 teams and 9 against the other 4. And I would assume, based on geography, they'll end up playing Ottawa and Montreal 10 times, and the rest, Vancouver, Winnipeg, Calgary, and Edmonton 9 times.
I think it's more than geography. I think they were going to play Montreal more because of Hockey Night in Canada too.
Well, that too, but that's but I don't think they're going to. I don't think they're going to imbalance the schedule like the AHL does, where the Marlies played Hamilton like 25 times.
Honestly, it wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't shock me if Hockey Night in Canada go like 12 games. Don't worry about Ottawa so much.
I don't think
Ottawa Toronto is not a great Saturday night game. Toronto Montreal is.
Yeah, but you're playing that off and you got enough Saturday night games. Like you got enough.
There's not that many, Eck.
12 games. They could put every one of those on Saturday night if they wanted to.
Well, just think of it this way. I mean, you're going to have to do that for all the other Canadian teams. Like Winnipeg's going to have to play 2 teams more. So they will say they play Calgary and Edmonton 10 times, and then they play Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal, and Ottawa 9 times. So each team is going to have to play one team 1 game more.
Yeah.
So that's the way it's going to work. Otherwise,
we have 4 teams out west and 3 teams out east. So that's going to work out that way.
Right. Exactly.
There's going to have to be a change in that somehow.
But so and also the taxi squads and how that's going to work. And Larry Brooks just tweeted out before the show here that the NHL has agreed to pay entry level players on their playing in the ECHL only like 3/4 of their salary. So you can, and these are salaries that are not like, these are like $40,000 a year salaries.
They are the ELC guys I was talking about yesterday. Like there's a lot of ELC guys.
Right.
And now they're saying if it's under 60 games, and that's what I was thinking. The reason I had said that is because I knew that they would have the softest effect to the cap.
Right. Right. No, that makes sense. They'll figure it out. And at the end of the day, I think it is more interesting to talk about the schedule than the money, because
schedule is definitely better than
schedule's more. It's a lot more fun to talk about how they're gonna figure this out. How they're gonna figure out the playoffs still is something that still I have not heard of.
Playoffs should be widespread. I don't think there's going to be an issue with playoffs.
I think
I heard the list I heard was again the top 3 teams in each division, and then the rest of the teams would be grouped by how well they are. Now you're talking. It's interesting in their records, and that is kind of bizarre because, like we talk about, you have the unbalanced schedules, right?
There's a problem with that though.
But if you don't do it that way, there's a lot of people that have a whole lot of trouble with, like, if you have 24 teams going in, so that's 6 teams from each division, which is what they're looking at. People having issues with Canada having 6 of their 7 teams going into the playoffs.
Well, I've said before that I think 6 of the 7 teams would have made it in the playoffs in the regular divisions. But no, the thing here is if you go top 3 teams and then basically the top whatever point getters, that means reseeding, and that might not be possible depending on the U.S.-Canadian border. Now, if you go 20 teams, I don't think they'll go 24, but I think they'll go 20. If they go 20 teams, then you can still keep the intra-division setup and basically just have the top 3 in the division and then 4 versus 5.
Yeah.
And it's going to, and you're not going to play somebody outside of your division until the conference final is the way.
But the thought process here is that by the time we get to the playoffs,
I would hope.
No, and that's they're thinking. I think I think it goes 2 ways in the playoffs. Why I think they feel like they can reseat to the playoffs is that you either have the borders open and you have everything perfectly fine that you can actually go out, which not saying you can still put people in the stands.
Right. I mean, they could do the regional hubs for that. They like baseball ended up.
Yeah, but if you don't have that, then you're going to go into hubs.
There were people who thought the border was going to be open in August. That's
I know, but I mean, the first people were vaccinated today in England. We have things coming. I mean, things are happening now towards an end that, the NHL is saying either we're going to be very, very good, or if it's not working at all and we're very bad, then we're just in hubs anyway. Right. So then they can reseat them and put them in hubs anyway. So it doesn't really much matter.
They could do the regional hub thing. It wouldn't be terrible.
I think so. I think it's one or the other. I think their more likelihood is that we do have some fans in the arena by that point. Hopefully, that's all we can hope. That's all we can hope.
Depends on distribution.
It does. It depends on a lot of stuff. But we'll see how it all plays out for sure. But they're hoping that's the hope right now, and the hope is that that the governments of Canada and the U.S. will both get the vaccine out to everybody pretty quickly. We'll see. But I think the alternate plan is hubs. So one way or the other. But I think
I mean for the regular season, that's like the disaster scenario. Everything that I've heard says that teams are going to play in their buildings, and the only ones that they think are going to be problems are what we talked about the last couple of days is San Jose, or some of the California teams. New Jersey might be a problem depending on whether a lot of these teams. Like Golden State got a special dispensation from California to practice, do their training camp, and probably to play regular season games in their new building. I can't see why San Jose, the Sharks.
Yeah, exactly. If they did, the Sharks will get it.
Right. So, but I mean, there could be some situations where they may not allow them in the buildings, like the 49ers with Santa Clara County. So we'll have to see. But I think those situations will be few and far between.
Hey, I've got some breaking news.
Good.
So Don Cherry's back in the news.
Uh-oh. Is he going on Fox News?
No, but he might as well. When the Canucks fired their anthem singer, and one of the Aquilini brothers literally did it on Twitter, like literally corrected the headline and said former anthem singer.
Yes, and specify why he got fired. I think he's saying
there, but you can do it. Go ahead. No, it's fine. Go ahead, Mr. Budinsky.
Go ahead.
So basically, it's because he was going to be singing at an anti-mask rally in Vancouver. And so now Don Cherry goes, well, if you speak your mind, be prepared to pay the consequences. And it's like, no, Don, you are missing the point here.
This is not a debate.
It's not a debate. And it's like but this is Don Cherry.
I heard about the anti-mask thing, and I'm not getting political, but it's
no. And we don't even need to get into it. But it's just amazing that Don Cherry's been laying in the weeds all this time, and it took this for him to come out of the weeds and say, "Oh, by the way, yeah, I'm all for that."
I heard a comedian say the other day, we all say that we can't all wear masks, but at some point in this country, we all agreed to wear pants,
right?
And we all wear pants, and no one says that it's wrong. And maybe and if you really are anti-pants wearer, you can't go out in public. There's just certain things.
But you can eat and drink in your underwear.
You could, again, this is not a hard thing to pull down the mask, eat and drink, and put it back up. It's not a
really tough thing for me to have to leave on, guys, but I got to get going.
All right.
Unfortunately. I agree, Barticus. All right. We'll talk to you guys in just a bit, okay?
All right.
I have to, unfortunately, have a family thing, but we'll talk again tomorrow. I'll be back again tomorrow. These guys are going to take some questions. And
all right.
Feel free to text me, guys, if you have a question I can answer, because I'll be in the car for a bit.
Okay, we'll start with Zach's questions here. Many of them here, so okay. we'll go through these. Starting Sorelli offer sheet.
No offer sheet.
Okay, Zach, do you follow hockey? Offer sheet? What offer sheet? Aho was the last one. I don't think there will be a serious one over the next few years unless they change the rules. So no. Killorn or Johnson packaged to Nashville. I talked about that yesterday. Honestly, I cannot see Yzerman, even with boatloads of cap space, taking on, even though they're good players, but taking on $10 million of long-term salary in Killorn and Johnson for like a draft pick.
There's no reason for him to do it. The same reason he said he didn't sign Torrey Krug. It's going to take 3 years for them to be good. Why is he going to have these guys on the team? And look, Stamkos is going to come up on the LTIR. You just know he is.
And by the time they're good and ready to contend for a playoff spot, Killorn and Johnson are 33 and 32.
Yeah.
And still making big money. So
no, Detroit is not buyers and sellers. They are not. They are strictly sellers and building from within. Right now, that's until they decide they're close enough that they need a few guys to make it happen. That's when you'll see them do it.
Okay, I'll amend that slightly. I think they're going to be a clearinghouse this year. You know, they sign like they have Filppula, they have Bobby Ryan, who they brought in on a 1-year deal. I could see them at the deadline, or like a Sam Gagner. I could see at the deadline them flipping those guys out who are
that's just a natural thing. But
right. Yeah. But they're not like, okay. You take on a guy
no reason to keep those guys. That's my point.
Right. You take on a guy who's making $5 million for 4 years. Good luck trying to get rid of him.
Yeah.
No way. Okay. Free agent updates. I don't think you're going to hear anything until
after the schedule. The schedule has to be announced. The league has to announce it's playing. And then probably after we know when camps are open, then I think we'll start to see guys move.
Well, this was the interesting thing that Friedman said, and I didn't think about this, but it's a good
meaning the date, not when the actual camp opens.
Right. This is a good point in terms of, you know, we played our little 1-year contract PTO or not a game. Players who are going to sign PTOs, they may choose teams that they think they have a chance to earn a contract from. They may sign with those teams because of visibility, but the problem is there's going to be no exhibition games, so they're not going to get any visibility. But also, whatever the rules are for these taxi squads, if you could sign a player who could be on your taxi squad and might get into the lineup, teams and players will sign PTOs with those teams because they think they have a chance to make an extended roster and actually get in. You know, I mean, it may be for pennies on the dollar, maybe for a 2-way contract, but I think that makes a lot of sense. So
I will tell you this, though, from a baseball perspective, since I do write about some baseball prospects for a website, the camps that they had, the alternate sites, didn't really help players. It only helped you if you got called to the major league team. If you didn't, most of those players got released. And
I think the only team that actually availed themselves of those players was Miami when they had the big outbreak.
Right. They had to really use them. But a lot of guys, good prospects, just sat there and didn't do much. And you don't want that either, because that doesn't really help a player either.
Right. Toronto's lines. I'll just say this. I think the top 2 lines, obviously, with Matthews and Tavares center, Nylander and Marner on the wings. I think Zach Hyman will be on the left side on the line with Matthews, and I think it's going to be Ilya Mikheyev playing the left side on the second line. Third line, fourth line. There's a number of different options. I actually think they're going to mix things around and look to see how things work out. But I think they'll start with Kerfoot at center and Thornton at center on the fourth line. Let's see here.
I don't know what top prospects means, but World Junior COVID thoughts.
Oh yeah, let's go with that.
Here's my initial thoughts on that. By the way, I did just interview literally 10 minutes ago Igor Larionov, so eventually on Sportsology I'll have something about the Russian team. He did talk about Amarov. He did talk about Askarov.
Nice.
So, but he also talked about the team and what it's like to coach it and everything. But as far as that, they're in good shape. Sweden's not. I think Sweden is unfortunately out of medal contention here.
Well, they've not only lost 2 top players, they've lost their coach now.
Yeah, I think It might be 3 top players now, right?
Well, was it Wallinder, Eklund, and there was another player, but I don't.
There was a player from Detroit. He's not a top player, but he's a good player.
Yeah.
I forget the kid's name, but at the end of the day, they've lost a lot. It still doesn't mean World Juniors could be an amazing thing and everybody's got a chance, but this has really hurt them. I mean, they're really hurt. So we'll see. I don't know. Can the coach now? I know the players can't.
He's isolated, so I don't think.
I don't think he can. Right.
Yeah, so it'll be whoever the assistant coach.
Right. So they're really hamstrung. So I feel bad for Sweden, and Lucas Reichel just tested positive, so he is not on Germany. That's a big blow because Germany really needed him.
Yeah. So
I don't know if they're going to have a chance to medal. So again, much like the NFL season, a lot of the team's success is going to be based on depth on their roster and who doesn't come down with COVID.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's sad to say, but that's where we're at.
Yeah. And this has hit everybody.
Yeah, Alvin Brew is the guy. Thanks, Bill.
Yeah, it's hit everybody though. I mean, it's now all of a sudden, like, Canada shut down their camp for 2 weeks because they had positives. So Canada, the US, Sweden, and Germany. So half the teams in the tournament got hit with this. So it's not surprising. Okay, let's see here. George, hey guys, any truth to the Nylander rumors with Philly? How shall I say this? No. I think that there's interest. Do I think it's going to happen? No. Do I think it's going to happen this year? No. But I've said forever that after this year, if the Leafs don't have success in the playoffs, that the guy who was easiest moved out of their core group to open up cap space to improve their defense, which I think would be the failing of their team if they don't go far in the playoffs, would be Nylander. Tavares, Matthews, Marner all make over close to or over $11 million. So Nylander, after scoring 30 goals, and he probably scores 30 goals, probably not in 56 games, but he'll probably have a good year playing on Matthews' wing. And if he does have another good year at price of under $7 million, he's somebody that teams would be attracted to. So I think he would get traded. Bob Dracula. When will the Rangers trade D'Angelo for a center? The loaded on the right side need to move one.
It's not going to happen. I mean, centers are near impossible to come by. Again, you almost always have to draft a top 6 center. It's hard to get one in a trade. They got one in a trade. To expect them to get another in a trade is going to be really hard unless you're getting a temporary guy. So I don't think they're going to trade D'Angelo for that. I don't even know if they're going to be able to trade for that.
Right. Okay. Will teams use taxi squad to circumvent the cap? Well, it all depends on what the parameters are for the cap.
Right. We don't know what the parameters are yet.
Yeah. I mean, if there's a salary cap on the cap on the taxi squad, then, I would assume that the rule that applies to burying contracts in the AHL will apply to the taxi squads.
I would think so.
Right. So if somebody's making $6 million, the most you can save on that contract, if you demote them to the taxi squad, is a little over $1 million. Right. So I don't think they're going to be, I don't think this is Lou Lamoriello burying McGillney and Malakoff. It's not, that would clearly be cap circumvention. So, okay. Bob's asking about Funky. I'm sure he's referring to Funky here, but why would Buchnevich be moved soon?
Well, I don't think he's – look, Quinn has challenged him. I think he has rise to the occasion when Quinn's challenged him. It does seem to be an oil and water situation, though. Quinn doesn't always seem to be happy with him. I could see Pavel Buchnevich being moved at some point.
Okay. Bartek is asking, Melnick says Ottawa will be buyers this deadline. Do you guys buy that? I don't.
No.
Now, I think they're being very systematic in their assembling of that club. I mean, I like what they're doing in terms of, okay, they added Dadonov, who has been a consistent scorer. They've signed young guys like Shabbat and Colin White to extensions.
And they have Matt Martin.
Matt Martin.
Not Matt Martin, no.
Oh, Matt Murray.
Matt Murray.
Okay, wait. Whoa.
I know. No, they had Matt Murray. Yeah,
Matt Murray, and they extended guys like Connor Brown. They traded for Austin Watson. You know, I mean, and they've got that young core groups. But I think the young core group, they're just going to let them play and see what they got.
Yeah, I don't think their bottom six is particularly great. I don't think their 4 through 6 is particularly great defensively yet. I think Murray will help them, and I think all the things Mike said. I don't think they're a playoff team, and I don't think they're going to trade to act like they're a playoff team. However, because we're in a COVID season, if things break their way and some teams have some bad guys that either get hurt, because we are seeing a lot of NFL injuries because guys don't get to practice as much.
Right.
Hey, anything's possible, sure.
Yeah, I mean, if they're close to a playoff spot, and then fans come into the stands late in the season, and they can add some rentals for like the tons of extra draft picks that they have, then yeah, sure. I mean, why not? But I also think there's an equal chance that they'll flip guys that they acquired, during the off season. Like, they brought in Erica Branson, and he's got 1 year left at $4 million. If they're not in contention, they're gonna sell Branson for an asset. They're gonna sell Alex Galchenyuk for an asset. So
yeah.
It could go either way. It all depends on how they play. And I think, I like Tkachuk. I like some of the talent that they have. So we'll see. Funky asks, I think Goudreau will be traded.
Yeah, I think at the deadline. I think they'll start the season with him. I don't think there's a reason to trade him before the season starts because you might as well get the most mileage you can out of him. And especially if he can help you get into playoff position. And if you trade him, hey, you were going to trade him anyhow, but at least you might make the playoffs. So,
well, yeah, I think the most important thing here is he's going into the year with another year left in the contract.
Right. That's why you have to trade him at the deadline. If you wait until that year then forget it. Your value is going to plummet. Right.
He's a rent-a-player, and then you're getting rent-a-player. It's like the Jeff Skinner deal. What did Carolina get for Jeff Skinner? Cliff Poo and a draft pick. It's like, that doesn't.
It ain't much.
Right. Barticus says, let's put Matt Martin between the pipes.
I wouldn't mind seeing that.
Funky is saying just on Leafs Nation has had Willie traded for 4 years now. He's not being traded. Okay. I've been one of the people who said he's was going to get traded. I will stick with that because I think it's been an error that they haven't traded him, but I do think they've reached sort of, if they'll make the playoffs unless injuries happen, but if they don't advance in the playoffs, the Rubicon has been crossed. I think that they'll have to fundamentally change certain aspects of that team to have success. And again, I can't see them trading that group, the big three with the $11 million salary, but they can trade Nylander and get salary, get a player back for them that would help them in a different area. It's all about allocation. It's all about allocating funds. It's all about asset management.
My answer to Nylander is every year Mike's a year closer to being right with him being traded. As far as what Funky is saying about Goudreau, shouldn't you trade him before the season not to risk injury? Nobody has maneuverability. Anybody who might want to get traded to has no cap space. So, no, you can't really trade him now. But as the season progresses, guys will get injured. Some guys will go on LTIR. That's when you'll have teams that all of a sudden will have a little maneuverability. There's very little maneuverability now.
Okay, Zach is asking, I'm assuming about Freddie Anderson. Freddie stays or goes. How much do you pay? If you let him go, who do you want? Okay, first, Freddie stays or goes. It all depends on this year. If
he's gone, I don't think it even matters.
No, I don't think so. I think if they advance in the playoffs and he plays well. Now, if you don't think that that's possible, then yeah, he's gone.
No, I'm not even saying if that's possible or not. There's no way I'm signing him to another 3-year deal, and that's what he's going to want.
Well, he had a 5-year, $5 million per. That was when they traded with Anaheim.
Right.
It's probably going to, if he has success, if he doesn't have success, they're probably going in a different direction. If he has success, then he's going to ask for more than $5 million.
For at least 3 years, I think.
For at least 3 years.
I'm not doing it. I don't even care if he just had success.
Yeah, but then the other question is, okay, if you let him go, then who's out there?
Well, I'll worry about it at that moment. I mean, I'll see maybe somebody will be available via trade. Maybe Murray's going to be available because Ottawa just got him to trade him. Like, we don't know.
Maybe. Or you could do something like Seattle claiming a goaltender.
And then you get the goalie from them. Yeah.
Trade for the goalie. That's
right.
Possible. All right. A couple more questions. Anthony asks, do the Capitals add more toughness on their blue line? Okay, this is their blue line right now. Carlson and Orloff, Justin Schultz, Brendan Dillon, Jensen, Kempney, and Van Riemsdyk, and Siegenthaler.
Yeah, no, they're fine. Siegenthaler has some toughness. Dillon, Carlson gets a ton of hits every year now. Like if you watch Carlson, he's one of the leading hits guys for defensemen. No, I think they're fine. Orloff will lay the occasional big hit. No. I don't think that's their issue. I think their issue is just actually playing defense.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Jensen, Kempney, and Van Riemsdyk aren't overly tough, but, I mean, you're talking depth guys. I mean, yeah, I don't think it's a terrible defense. I don't think it's a wimpy defense. So, I don't think that's the biggest problem. With them, I think they just have to watch and see that they, if they have injuries, then they don't have a ton of depth past those guys. I think the next one would be like Lucas Johansson in terms of a call-up. So, okay. Any last? What's that?
I was gonna say somebody asked the question. I'm not sure who it was. Will Shesterkin be the reason the Rangers make the playoffs? I think he is the reason he does, but the defense could be the reason they don't. So if they get decent defense and he plays like we think he can play, yes, they will make the playoffs. If he's just a little less than what we think he is, because there's going to be some growing pains, and their defense is the same or only marginally better than last year, then they're not going to make the playoffs.
All right, last one here. Who is the strongest World Junior squad this year? Now, we had Mike Morial on our Off the Post show on the weekend, and we were talking about this. And I, Canada is always the favorite or one of the favorites every year. The one thing I asked to Mike was, their goaltending, I think, is sort of pedestrian. It's not bad. It's not great.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, they have a couple guys. One of them played in the top prospects game, but nobody's a standout.
Right. Whereas Russia has Askarov and
Brochu, like Mike brought up Brochu from the London Knights.
Right.
And I went back and looked at my notes, and he played well when I saw him. But I didn't look at him and say, wow. And maybe he'll be a wow this year, but you never know when somebody's going to make that jump. Certainly Spencer Knight is better. Askarov's better. Right. At the end of the day, if you want to look at roster, Canada still has the best rosters. Right. Best roster, the most depth.
And like I said, they won the gold last year with Nico Dawes and Joel Hofer. So it's like, they can win with average goal. They just need their goalies not to make big mistakes.
So I do think Canada is the favorite. I like the U.S. roster a lot. I really did like the Swedish roster, and I like their defense a lot, and their defense is still really good. And I love Raymond, and the goaltending is good. But now, I'm kind of wondering. I think there's a chance here for Russia too. I think Russia has a lot of guys. Here's a big thing that Larionov told me, and he said it more than once. Russia does have more than a few players that have been playing in the KHL.
Right.
And so he's hoping for some carryover there. And if there is, that's pretty good because they've played more than anybody who's played in college, anybody who's played, maybe except even the Q, I don't think has played as many games because a lot of teams played some, didn't play some as the KHL. So that's a nice little edge to have.
Well, and even one of their players, Abramov, who's a Leaf draft pick, he was playing in the Q. So even the guys who weren't in the KHL had some experience. And
they have a lot of guys who are coming off hot.
Especially early in the tournament, that's going to be a big advantage for the Russians is that they'll be up to speed or up to a certain speed, whereas everybody else, they've been playing scrimmages, but that's not like real action. So we'll see. But that I'm looking forward to the tournament. I hope it continues to go off. Hopefully there won't be any, massive outbreaks that prevent it from happening. But, right now everything is in limbo. So we'll see. Okay. We'll end the show there. We'll be back tomorrow with another edition of the Hockey Buzzcast for the departed Eklund. For Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello. Thanks for watching. And remember,